Your unique story, our global audience. Global One Media.
Welcome to Global One Media's exclusive one-on-one discussions with crypto and blockchain industry thought leaders as they share insights into their unique journey. I'm your host, Bastien Boulay, and we're thrilled today to be welcoming Mateo, a crypto influencer, YouTuber, and investor, who's the founder of Mad Cripto, Todo De Cripto.com, and Digital Compass, which aim to educate people about crypto, blockchain, NFTs, in multiple languages. Mateo, thank you so much for being here today.
No, thanks for the invite.
So, Mateo, 2022 has been a challenging year for crypto, not just in terms of loss in market value, but also reputation. Do you think the reputation of crypto will ever recover after such events like the collapse of FTX and the scandal around it?
I think definitely. I think it's a big deal for sure. But as always, people forget. They will find some other news to focus on some other industry probably, and it will go away. But definitely, it's a big one. It will take more time maybe than usual. 2022 has been a really wild ride from the start, pretty much. We had the Luna crash, big companies, big hedge funds crashing, like Celsius, 3 Hours Capital, and now hopefully the last domino, it's FTX.
Right.
I think it's gonna pass. This is not the first time that exchanges collapse. Mt. Gox controlled almost 90% of the market at its time, so definitely, I think it will be something that will recover from eventually.
Right. And we also witnessed the switch from proof of work to proof of stake in the Ethereum network. What impact will this have on Ethereum and the wider ecosystem?
I think definitely the energy usage has been a pretty big deal lately for Bitcoin, for example. That's a point that they criticize a lot. Mostly regulators in Europe, for example, they're trying to limit mining because of the energy consumption. So proof of stake, I think it's an interesting technology, an interesting consensus mechanism, but there's different ways that there's vulnerability, So
Right.
I think it's not perfect. I don't think proof of work is perfect either. There's no true perfect decentralization. I think it's like a spectrum. It's not like binary, like you're decentralized, you're not decentralized. It's something that can go in many ways. So I think it's going to be an interesting evolution, but definitely blockchains with proof of stake are taking over. But it could have some things that could make it really bad for decentralization. Personally, I think since governments, central banks can print money and could acquire the asset that is needed to stake to secure the network, and that way they control the network. And the new generation of blockchains have governance systems integrated into them, so whoever holds the most tokens can have more voting power. So this could guide blockchains in some different ways that maybe 1% of the holders of ETH or other tokens, proof of stake tokens, want. So let's see where it goes. I think personally, this is all a big experiment, but well, the euro is also an experiment. So it's something that's continually upgrading. But yeah, definitely even more so smart contract and proof of stake blockchains are pretty new compared to Bitcoin that recently, actually yesterday, today's 4th, yesterday 3rd of January, it was the 14th anniversary of Bitcoin since the Genesis block. So Bitcoin is a little bit more mature than the other assets, but I think everything has its place.
Yeah. Very interesting. And that being said, we're seeing, increased calls for tighter regulations of cryptocurrencies. Do you think that will happen? And if yes, in what form?
I think it's going to be interesting how fast they can implement regulations. But I've been seeing, for example, different organizations like the G20, where India was just put as a leader for this year, I think. And one of their main goals for this year is to set like standards for all the G20 countries. Europe is working a lot in regulations. I don't know how fast they will implement it, but personally, I think that regulations will be good for the market, at least in the long term. Maybe short term, there will be a market scare. There will be some assets that will get wiped because of these regulations, but some other assets will survive and thrive even more because the money could concentrate in the most established and proved concepts and tokens. So I think there are some projects that maybe worked really well since the beginning, with lawyers working with whatever regulations or preparing a little bit for the future. So I think those projects could do very well when these regulations come. But some other projects are based or were born based on maybe a scam, or they didn't consult any lawyers on what they should do, if they should do advertising for this or not, the way they should advertise these products. So I think some price could get wiped, but let's see. It's going to be an interesting year to see also, for example, XRP. Many people like that crypto, and they still have this lawsuit going on with the SEC. And whatever the result of this lawsuit is, it's going to impact the whole market or many tokens which were born or in a similar ways than XRPs. I think regulations will be good because they will bring the big money. I think really big money is not willing to do like a large investment in something that maybe tomorrow regulators will come out and say it's illegal. So they don't want to put, I don't know, $1 billion into something and then next day it's illegal. So when they have these regulations, they will have clear guidelines on where to invest, that it's safe or safest. But everything is experimental. So there's no safe actual place. So I want to remember that to people, but there's something that's safer or not, but without risk, there's no benefits.
That's very true. Very true. Mateo, let's talk a bit about the metaverse. What potential do you see there?
I think there's big potential, but there's many things that are not ready yet. For example, bandwidth capacity to like process this like very heavy loads of data they could require or they already require. I think there's also not enough advanced hardware. I think Facebook just released their new virtual goggles that have like augmented reality and virtual reality. I think that's interesting. I heard also Apple might come up with some type of glasses of this kind. I think the hardware is working to get there, but to truly live the metaverse experience, I think we're still a long way to go with this. I think it's very important for people to realize that there's potential, but we're really early. Actually, Decentraland is one of the largest metaverses in crypto metaverses because there's metaverses like Roblox that it's like a metaverse, but there's no ownership of stuff like you have the crypto metaverse that use blockchain behind.
Right.
But with blockchain metaverses, Decentraland is one of the biggest, most well-known metaverses, and they released a report about the activity they had in 2022. And within the whole year, they had 1 million active users. So it's a pretty big number, but compared to a metaverse or like a video game, or it's not enough. There's, I guess, some video games that have more than 1 million users per month, or actually maybe even per day. So
for sure,
for some events or something. So definitely we're still a long way to go, but their metrics show growth year to year. So I think that's positive, but definitely there was a big hype going on the last year. Some people thought that Metaverse was already here, and it is, but it's not what we expect. There's still a long way to go. This is like when we connected to internet through the phone and there was this like sounds, we're still there, and we're still a long way to go. But there's a lot of potential. It's the new, for me, Metaverse is like a new way to, like, you could have a website that it's like a Metaverse, right? So it's a new way to present what's already in the internet in a more interactive way. It's going to be interesting what comes up with these ideas, because we still haven't even thought of many ideas, I think, that are going to be implemented in the metaverse. I suggest people, like, if they're entrepreneurs, besides investors, to venture into this area and experiment. I think it's all about experimentation now, finding what works, finding what doesn't work, and really pushing what really is working. So let's see where it goes, but potential is there, and I think that's why Meta is investing so many billions and in this area, but it's gonna be a slow grind up.
For sure.
But I think it's really interesting. I'm really impressed in what AI is happening right now with AI in the last 3-4 months, with what's been coming up. So I think it's going to be exponential, the growth with these technologies.
Very cool. I'm excited to see what happens this year with the metaverse. Mateo, as a last question, what would be your own personal top crypto recommendations for this new year, 2023, for interested investors looking to look more into crypto?
For sure. Non-financial advice, but definitely I always say you have to have Bitcoin in one portfolio, because it's like the anchor of this portfolio. Bitcoin is the most proven, the most well-known. It's truly different, I think, from many assets. I think many of the other assets are more like, I evaluate them more like companies, because Bitcoin doesn't have a leader. It doesn't have an organization. Doesn't have a foundation. It's like a self-living organism, pretty much. And people are building around it, but there's no like creator that's guiding everything. While the other projects have, like, Ethereum has Vitalik Buterin, Polkadot has Gavin Wood, Cardano has Charles Hoskinson. They're more like companies, and they're like the directors, the CEOs of these companies, trying to guide this project into building something interesting. So I evaluating different, but Bitcoin for me is basic in a portfolio. I would go also for Ethereum. It's like the most active developer community. Most innovations happen there, and there's a lot of interest from institutions. So also the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, and Solidity smart contract language, that is the most used smart contract language. So there's a lot of potential there. But also, for example, we have things like Polygon, Matic. I think that's a pretty interesting project. I think it could replace, for example, something like Binance Smart Chain. Many institutions are using Polygon for their blockchain solutions, like Disney, Meta, Reddit, Starbucks. All the big names are using Polygon. Even JP Morgan recently used it in a transaction that they did on a public blockchain using Polygon. So I think that's really could help position Polygon in a pretty awesome way. I'm a really big fan of Polkadot. I think it's one of the most advanced, if not the most advanced blockchain. When we're talking about technology, it's not the most hyped or the most pumped or whatever, but technology-wise, I think it's great. They built this really from the ground up, working from truly on technology. They have a really advanced governance system that I really like, and their ecosystem is growing. Their substrate blockchain building framework is maybe will catch some more adoption, but if you see in the data, Polkadot has one of the most active developer communities as well, in the top 3 pretty much. So I think that's a sign of something good, because those guys are the ones who build the dApps, the solutions that bring the users. So I think that ecosystem is pretty interesting. I'm not just only Polkadot. I think Cosmos also is pretty interesting ecosystem. They both, Polkadot and Cosmos, have a multi-chain vision of the future. IBC, that is the intercommunication protocol of Cosmos, is getting a lot of traction. And some of the dApp, or a really popular dApp in Ethereum called DYDX, that is a DEX, decentralized exchange, decided to do their V3 as a app chain on the Cosmos ecosystem. So that's one of the trends, I think, for 2023, maybe app chains. And besides this, I think there's some truly strong, solid projects within the Ethereum ecosystem. For example, Aave, MakerDAO, Uniswap. I think Uniswap could potentially start giving dividends to their token holders. Right now, they have not been doing it, since they could potentially be classified as a security if they did. But I think once regulation is clear, they could. This is something that could happen. It's already happening in some projects. They're calling them real yield projects. There's one that's really interesting, getting a lot of traction, called GMX. That is a leverage trading decentralized exchange. And the holders of GMX get to stake it and receive commissions of what the money brings, of what's generated by the protocol. So right now they're building like real streams of revenue for this protocol. Last year in 2022, there was like 2021, 2022, there was a lot of yield farming and creating tokens out of thin air and giving APYs based on those tokens made out of thin air. That's fake yield. That's almost like a Ponzi, or is a Ponzi. This is like more like this protocol generates revenue on ETH or strong, solid cryptos and gives yield to the holder. So these real yield protocols, I think it's going to be interesting. And definitely there's many projects in the Polkadot ecosystem that I would check out. And I think one last one that I could add is Centrifuge.
Okay,
That's it's bringing real world assets to the DeFi blockchain ecosystem.
All right. Very, very cool, Mateo. Thanks a lot for all that information and for your time today. We look forward to seeing the next updates in crypto this coming months and this year. Yeah, thanks for sharing your insights with our audience.
No, welcome. And I think it's going to be an interesting year, definitely. 2023, I think it's going to be the year of the bottom. And then 2024, we will have the Bitcoin halving that has started 3 bull markets already. So potentially we could see that in 2024, 2025. So it's a good time to prepare for this.
Amazing. Looking forward to see that. Thanks, Mateo.
Take care. Thanks.